Today we're going to be looking at some boxers that need to win their next fights. Now first up on the list I'm going to start out with Canelo. Now in Canelo's last fight he faced off against Terence Crawford where he didn't look his best, as Crawford completely outclassed him in that fight and got the win in that matchup. Where of course the Canelo that we have nowadays isn't the same that we had a few years ago, as we started to see him slow down in his past few fights, where he was going to the distance with guys that he shouldn't have. And then when he faced off against Terence Crawford, I think that was the nail in the coffin. But Canelo is still Canelo and he's still a great fighter, but he's supposed to be fighting for a world title in his next matchup, where if he's facing off against another good opponent, this could go wrong, as there's a lot of good people in this 168-pound division, and it really does depend who he gets matched up against, as if he faces off against the winner of Hamza Shiraz versus Diego Pacheco, those guys can both have a good chance of beating him. Now especially Hamza Shiraz, as we saw him knock out Edgar Berlanga and dominated him in that fight, where he made it look easy, knocking him out early on in that match, where we saw Canelo face off against Berlanga where he dropped him, but he took him to a decision. So Canelo definitely has his work out for him in his next fight, but he's someone that really needs to win his next matchup. Now next is going to be Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant is a guy that's never afraid to take on good challenges, as he's faced off against some of the best fighters in this 168-pound division, but with a 2-3 record in his last 5 fights, it's not looking too good for him. As lastly, he lost in a split decision against Armando Resendiz, where he was a huge favorite in this matchup, and this was basically going to be a tune-up fight, except it went completely south where he would lose. And now with Resendiz being a world champion, Caleb Plant missed out on that opportunity, and he said that he wanted to get this rematch, but it doesn't seem like that's happening now, where there has been talks about Caleb Plant facing off against Jermall Charlo, where that would be an amazing matchup because both those guys don't like each other, and that fight's also been brewing for such a long time now, so it would be good to see it finally happen. Except that is a very dangerous matchup for Caleb Plant, as Jermall Charlo is still a great fighter, but if he's gonna go into that fight with Jermall Charlo straight off the bat, that's gonna be tough to do, as he's going on a long layoff now, and after losing that fight to the split decision to Resendiz, he definitely needs to gain his confidence back. So I'd say he should probably fight another tune-up fight before that match, but we already seen what's happened in the past, as they literally tried to do that with that Resendiz fight, as they were trying to get Caleb Plant and Jermall Charlo to get some tune-up fights to then face off against each other, but with Caleb Plant losing, it kind of ruined their plans. But we really haven't heard any other news on this fight, as they were talking about it happening like early on in May I believe, but now it doesn't seem like it's happening at all, at least from what we know. But hopefully behind the scenes they're getting this fight ready so we can watch it, or at least Caleb Plant's getting a fight date soon. But it seems like he is enjoying his time off in the ring, but hopefully we see him back in the year of 2026 and getting another win, as that's definitely what he needs for his career. Now next up is going to be Deontay Wilder, as Deontay Wilder was once known as one of the most exciting boxers, as every time the Bronze Bomber stepped in the ring he would pretty much just lose every single round before knocking someone out, and these weren't any ordinary knockouts, he was knocking these people out cold, creating highlight reel after highlight reel. Except recently he hasn't been the same boxer that we once knew, as in his past 6 fights he's 2-4 and got knocked out in 3 of those, and even when he didn't get knocked out he took a lot of damage in his fight against Joseph Parker. In all these fights in general, they took a lot out of Deontay Wilder, as the Tyson Fury trilogy was a lot, where he was knocked down multiple times and knocked out multiple times as well. So he definitely took a lot of damage from these fights, and it definitely slowed him down now, where obviously we see how he is in his career, as lastly he knocked out a journeyman in some random fight, which was obviously a good little comeback to get him back in the ring, where now he's supposed to be facing off against Derek Chisora, which could definitely be a bad matchup for him stylistically, as Deontay Wilder isn't really a good boxer, he was really just known for his punching power, as you don't get 43 knockouts and 44 wins for no reason. But Derek Chisora is definitely one of those guys that can pull off this upset, but winning for Deontay Wilder would mean a lot for his career, as he's supposed to be fighting Alexander Usyk somehow, but if he loses his fight to Chisora, then that's just not going to happen, as Usyk fighting Wilder in the first place is already a weird idea, and if Wilder can't get past Chisora, then I think it's time for him to wrap it up. But it would be nice to see him get a win in his next fight, as after his past few fights it would be nice to see him end his career in the right way, and even if he does fight Alexander Usyk in the future after this one, and it would be nice to see him at least get another big payday, and hopefully not lose that fight too badly, or who knows, maybe he can pull off one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. Next up we have Lamont Roach, as Lamont Roach is a guy that recently just got really popular in the sport of boxing, as he had 2 really popular fights where he faced off against Gervonta Davis, where in that fight he would put on an amazing performance where he shocked everyone, as he would take the fight to a draw where a lot of people even thought that he had won, where he really did look good in his fight, and it was the first time we really saw Tank in some trouble, where Roach was landing some really good shots and had Tank surprised at moments. But then fast forward to his next fight, he would face off against Pitbull Cruz, who was obviously another really popular fighter, where in this fight again it would be a great matchup, as both these guys would put on great performances, where once again the fight would go to a draw. So Lamont Roach has 2 back-to-back draws in his career now, and it's safe to say he desperately needs a win, especially with his newfound fame, as a lot of people have become fans of his recently, and I'm sure the last thing he wants to do is get back-to-back draws, both against really big names as well, as beating beating any of those guys would definitely get him even more fame than he already has. But of course, he has the 2 draws and he's looking to get a win in his next fight, where he wants to get the rematch with Pitbull Cruz, but he doesn't know what Pitbull's doing, as it doesn't seem like that fight is gonna happen. But there is a big possibility that Lamont Roach can be fighting for the new WBA world title, as Tank Davis was stripped of his 135-pound title, so Lamont Roach is gonna be the one to get the nod, where he can be able to fight for the vacant belt. So hopefully if he gets that matchup, he can win and become a world champion in this new weight class. Now next on the list is gonna be Ryan Garcia. Now it's safe to say, after all the controversy Ryan Garcia has had, a win would be the best thing for his career, as firstly with the no contest against Devin Haney where he popped for steroids, that was a bad look, as he looked good in the fight, but everything afterwards was definitely a bad thing for him, where a lot of people definitely turned on Ryan Garcia, as this was just not the right thing that he wanted. And then of course he got banned for a year from boxing, so then after that long layoff he faced off against Rolly Romero, where Rolly Romero would beat Ryan Garcia in this fight, where he dropped him in the process, just completely embarrassing Ryan Garcia, as this loss was really one of the worst things that could have ever happened for his career, as this was basically supposed to be a tune-up fight for him to get a highlight reel knockout to put him back on top, but it turned out to be the complete opposite, as Ryan was the one that was getting laughed at. But Ryan really does need a win in his next fight, especially with this being for a world title, as Ryan has yet to win a world title in his career, and everyone thinks that Mario Barrios is the easiest champion to beat in this division as well. So if Ryan Garcia loses this fight, then this is just going to be detrimental for his career, as I really don't know where he's going to go from here. But it's not like this is an easy fight either, as Barrios is good enough to beat Ryan Garcia, as if Garcia can't land his left hook, then I don't really know what else he has in his arsenal, where at least Mario Barrios is pretty well rounded. But we're really just going to have to wait and see what happens, but Ryan Garcia desperately needs to get this win. Now last but not least is going to be Gervonta Tank Davis, as Tank Davis really needs to win his next fight, as in his last fight he faced off against Lamont Roach, where it was just a really bad look for his career, as there was just plenty of bad moments for him, such as the knee and getting tagged with a lot of big shots, as Lamont Roach really put on a great performance and showed that Tank can be beat, where Tank was pretty lucky to get the draw in my opinion, as watching this fight live it really did seem like Lamont Roach was going to get the nod, but we all know that it was a draw, so that is what is on his record. But with Tank having a lot of controversy right now, and after that Jake Paul fight not going through, he really needs to win his next fight, just to at least show that he's still a good boxer and still cares about boxing, because right now it just seems like the complete opposite, as Tank was talking a lot about retirement before that Lamont Roach fight as well, and even with the Jake Paul fight he said he was going to retire after that fight. But with him not having that fight either, who knows what's next for him, as if he's going to be going to jail and spending some time there, then who knows when the next time we'll see him in the ring, as it's not going to be for a while, at least probably a year. And Tank Davis is in his 30s now, so the clock is ticking, and with him you really never know when he's going to fight next. But if he ever does fight again, then he needs to win that fight, to just prove to everyone that he still is a top boxer. But I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Now let me know what you guys think about these guys, and what do you think they need to do in their careers, as they're all in a pretty similar situation, as they all need to get a win in their next matchup. Now if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.